Most buttons fall into one of two categories, buttons with holes and buttons with shanks. Each type is sewn differently. This is a button with a shank. This is an example of a button with holes. Most buttons can be sewn with a double thread of ceramide. Extremely heavy or metal buttons may require a thicker thread. Place the ruler along the actor line of the label. Measure out 1 inch from the left edge of the label and draw a small cross with a pencil. The center of the cross will match the center of the button. Repeat this on the right side. With a double thread, push the needle down through the fabric just beside the center of the cross and pull until the knot catches. Push the needle back up through the fabric just on the other side of the center. Pull until the thread is taut. Push the needle through the shank of your button. Push the needle back through the fabric just beside where you went down the first time. Pull until the button shank is resting snugly on the fabric. Continue to sew up through the fabric, through the shank, and back down 5 or 6 times. The button shank should rest snugly against the fabric, but not be so tight that it creates a divot or wrinkles in the fabric around. Check the buttons. Some buttons have an emblem that is directional. If so, be sure they are facing in the correct direction. Push the needle down through the fabric and tie a knot. Make a circle with the thread, wrap the thread around the needle twice, pull the thread until the needle is snug against the fabric. Place your thumb on the thread loops to hold them in place. Pull the needle through until the knot is tight. Repeat a second time. Push the needle under the first layer of fabric and come up about 1/8 of an inch away. Clip your thread flush with the fabric. You have sewn on the shank button and are ready for the button with holes. Using a double thread, push the needle down just off the center of the cross and pull until the knot catches. Push the needle back up through the fabric just beside where you started. Push the needle through one hole of your button from back to front. Push the needle down through the next hole from front to back. Push the needle through the fabric next to where you placed the knot. Place your finger between the button and the fabric and pull until the button is against your finger. This leaves a little space between the button and the fabric to create the shank later. Continue to go up through the fabric, up through the buttonhole, down through the buttonhole next to it, and down through the fabric 4 or 5 times. After completing one pair of holes, move and complete the second set of holes in the same manner. Sometimes 4-holed buttons are completed with the thread forming an X instead of 2 vertical lines. It is important to do a set of buttons all the same, and it is a good idea to ask your draper or supervisor if there is a preference for each project. After the last pass, go up through just the fabric. With the thread between the fabric and the button, wrap the thread around the threads attaching the button 5 or 6 times. This creates a shank. The shank allows space between the button and fabric for easier buttoning and a smoother look. Pull tightly and then push the needle through the fabric right next to the other threads. Tie a knot to finish. Make a circle with the thread, wrap the thread around the needle twice. Pull the thread until the needle is snug against the fabric. Place your thumb on the thread loops to hold it in place. Pull the needle through until the knot is tight. Repeat a second time. Push the needle under the fabric and come up about 1/8 of an inch away. Clip your thread flush with the fabric. You have completed sewing on the button. Use a permanent marker or laundry pen to write your name on the twill tape label, and you are finished with Project 1.